everybody. Welcome to another episode of When Girls Talk Books. I'm Susie.
And I'm Kylee.
And this week we are going to go over The Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I kept wanting to call it Rachel Harris, and I was like, no, Harrison. Come on, you can do this.
She actually, I was doing a little bit of research, and she does a lot of like horror genre books, and I think kind of her vibe is like cozy horror, which I don't really know what that means.
Me neither.
But then I also saw somebody say that this was definitely not a cozy horror, and I was like, okay. So I feel like we need to read another one of hers.
Okay.
Just because
I would be down because it was a really good story.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed getting through the story. It like moved quickly so that you didn't have a lot of time to be bored or anything.
Yeah, definitely. My overall rating, 1 to 5 stars, was 5 for this. For sure.
Like you said last week, the coveted 5.
It was a golden 5.
Ooh, wow.
And I think it was one of my only 5-star reads of last year.
That says a lot, y'all. She reads a lot of books.
Yeah. And I think I had 3 last year, and this was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. What was your 5? If it's a 5-star rating.
I was going to give it like a 3 or a 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, this is fine. Everything's fine.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
All right, that's a wrap. We're good. We got the episode.
Yeah. And that's going to be the end of the podcast in general here. Yeah. So we're no longer friends. No,
yeah. Have a nice life. Yeah. Move to Vancouver after all. Bye.
No, not allowed. Okay, back on the boat.
Yep, back on the boat. So, The Black Sheep, kind of a thriller, I guess horror?
I think technically it is a horror genre.
It was scary. I guess you and I just watch/read some really scary shit. So I was like, I mean, I've read scarier. But this one definitely, like, threw me for a loop a couple times. I was like, what?
Yeah.
No! And especially coming from my very religious background, it was hilarious to read this book because of the subject. I'm just like, wow, a whole new world. I was taught that was horrible. So that's kind of fun.
So we will definitely be spoiling this book.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Because Buckle up.
So essentially, Black Sheep is about Vesper, who grew up in a very religious household / community. And you definitely immediately get the vibe that it was kind of a cult-like community, and she had run away, and then she gets an invitation to her cousin's wedding.
Bum, bum, bum.
And she thought that she was never welcomed back, so she kind of thought this was an olive branch, and so she decides to go, and there's a lot of odd things about where she grew up.
Certain.
That you definitely find out.
Especially because at the beginning of the book, I thought it was going to be like some kind of branch off of Christianity, like not bashing Christians here, but like just some kind of something like that because it was religion. And then she got the invitation and it was so fancy the way they wrote about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I was so shocked when it was like, psych.
It's not just a Christian household or any other.
But they sure talk about the Lord a lot.
They do talk about the Lord. So she starts at work.
Yes,
she's at work in New York.
I was picturing like kind of like a Buffalo Wild Wings, but its own branch because like
I pictured mediocre. Like a diner, but like also a Red Robin.
Yours is better.
Kind of
more closer.
But so she starts at work and she's helping this very difficult table, and they're kind of harassing her essentially.
Yes.
And he asked for, like, extra cheese.
And it like, wanted nacho cheese that was, like, actually hot.
Yeah. And so she ends up warming it up, and it spills on him, and it is scorching hot, and it burns him. And so she gets fired. So that ends up happening. She goes home, and then she feels like she's being watched on the way home.
Yes. And as someone with anxiety, you can sometimes not trust your gut because you're like, it's just me. Like, that person's just minding their business. But turns out she was being followed. And she had an idea of who it might be, but she wasn't, like, sure.
Yeah, because you don't even really know anything at that point. But I do think the way that it was described of her being watched, like, that feeling of it was so well done. Like, yes, I just remember reading that and being like, oh, man, that was really good.
Feeling like you were almost there yourself.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, or just like, you know, your skin starts to crawl and she's like looking around and she doesn't see anybody. And then she gets to the apartment and then there's the invitation to the wedding. And she's like, oh, no, somebody was here then.
It's not just me.
Validating. So the wedding is between Rosemary and
Rosie. And Brody. Bum, bum, bum.
Who is the love of her life is kind of what we think at this point.
I can't imagine, like, just how upset you would be. Because I was about to get married myself. If that would, oh, God. And we didn't know all the backstory yet about why they had, like, split up or even that they had really, like, that it was such a big deal to her. And then also, it's her cousin.
Yeah. Her cousin and her ex-boyfriend. And so essentially the reason why she goes is because she's like, you are not going to get married without looking me in the eye.
Something
and I was like,
so us. We would be like, we're going to get a custom gown. Yeah. We're going to make sure that we get hair and makeup done. We're going to rent a car. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I'm
showing
just gonna
up looking good.
Yeah.
Like, very Taylor Swift. Like, I'll bet you think about me.
Oh, hey. Oh, this I just threw it on. Don't mind me.
I just cleaned up my closet.
I literally just pulled up out of bed, actually, so.
Yeah, no big deal. No,
just
I'm not
full
wearing
glam.
It's fine.
So she does go to the wedding. She gets home.
She has to see her mother.
Yeah, and her mother, Constance, is a horror movie
star
queen. Yeah, essentially. But everybody is really happy that she's home, and she's really confused.
It was giving me Midsummer vibes when I was reading this part, because she's going to, like, what I pictured was a old Victorian home, all dark, very grand fixtures, and it was kind of a museum of everything that her mom accomplished, because she, from what we're reading, Vesper didn't really ever feel loved by her mother, wanted, she was kind of in the way. And, like, little did she know that they had a purpose for her whole life. And so it makes sense that they wanted to keep her kind of down and, like, under their thumb so that she didn't realize that she could erect shop.
Yeah.
Literally whatever she wanted.
Her mom is, they describe her as, like, an ice queen. Like, she's very standoffish and things like that, which you do kind of start to understand towards the end of the book as to why she is that way. Like, oh. Yeah. It was really sad. The house has all the memorabilia. It's, like, decked out, just horror genre everywhere in the house. And then
all of her extended family and everybody is all like, oh, you're home, oh, you're home, oh, you're home.
So happy to see you.
And I'm like, that would be so weird to feel like not be on good terms with them, be gone for a long time, come back for an emotional reason, feel on edge while getting kind of backstabbed. And then everybody's like, oh, hey, girl. And you're like, huh?
And then everybody's like, I'm so glad you finally came home. And she's
thinking
like,
she's there to stay.
Yeah, and she has to be like, I'm just here for the wedding. I got an invite. And she can't figure out who invited her. Like, nobody's saying, like, oh, I sent it to you.
Oh, you got the invite. No one just owned up to it.
And on the invite, it says something like, we miss you, come home, or something like that. Is, like, handwritten on the back. And then Brody is obviously there and very shocked to see her. I'm such a sucker for love. So I was like, oh, at this point, I have no idea what's actually happening in the book.
True.
So I'm like, the wedding's going to get called off. Yeah. He's going to leave with her. This is going to be great.
We thought we had the book all figured out. Like, yes, beautiful love story.
Yeah. Is it a horror movie? Yes. Am I hoping for a love story? Yes, I am.
There's always hope.
But you start to see him kind of like protecting her in a way. So they like sit down to dinner and the mom is really pushing Vesper to say grace, and Brody is like, I'll do it, and like protecting her. So like in my little heart here,
spark.
I'm
there
like,
it is. And can you imagine being the bride to be, like probably watching it like you, thinking like, ooh, there's still something there.
Rosemary is so pure in a way. True. Like she doesn't really think of that. So Rosemary is described as very innocent in a way, bubbly, but like meek, also like very tiny, very petite. Like they kind of describe her as just like a frail girl in a way.
Can't relate.
And Rosemary loves Vesper. And so we see that for sure. Like they were super close growing up. She definitely loved Vesper. And so she is genuinely very happy that she's home.
Rosie, she's drinking the Kool-Aid at this place. Like,
oh, yeah. She's bathing in it.
She's so in.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that she's just like, this is such a joyous occasion, because she's like totally buying whatever version that they're selling her of what this wedding is and how important it is and like why it's so important the Vesper's home. And so I didn't realize in the book when we were this far in that Vesper was going to be the one that like knew the least, because the way this book starts, it's like she knows in the ins and outs, she knows how this is going to go. So I wasn't ready for her to be blindsided so many times. Yeah. And I think that's what I did like about this book.
Yeah. It definitely was like you had no idea, and then once you started to know, you were like, what? Hold on.
Surprise.
Let's go back a few pages. What's you said?
Yeah, excuse me?
Yeah, so they sit down to dinner and to say grace, and Brody is saying grace, and at the end of it, they throw in a good old
Hail Satan! And everybody went, huh?
But everybody there is like, yep, party on, Wayne. You imagine, you're like at a friend's dinner, you're like sitting down, even if it's not your thing, you're going to say grace to be, polite. You're like holding hands and, yep, thank you for this meal, blah, blah, blah.
Bless the hands that prepared it.
And they're just like, Hail Satan.
It'd be like the time that I went to a Foursquare church with a class friend, and I had never been to one, and then they got in their prayer circle and all started chanting in tongues. And I'm like,
to the window, to the wall.
Holy Spirit, activate! Holy Spirit, activate! So it must have been, and here Vesper is just settling into home. But yeah, so then this book we're like, surprise! It's about Satanists, and it's a satanic cult. Yeah. So then furthers my midsummer vibes feeling and going, oh, they're looking for a May Queen. Yeah. Okay.
Completely off topic. Midsummer is one of the best movies. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Florence Pugh is phenomenal. Love it.
Absolutely nailed it.
It's really good. Then you find out that it's a satanic cult, essentially. So then you're kind of, like your shift on what you think is happening just completely changes as you're reading. So then I'm like picturing everything different at this point.
Suddenly everything is like reds and blacks and greens instead of like white and blue trim.
Yeah.
And like flower dishes. You're like black skull mugs.
And it's so funny because it's totally described that way before you even know. But in your brain as you're reading, like, it's not really coming through until you know. And then it's like, oh, I guess, because I did think it was odd how she was saying, like, Rosemary was all of a sudden wearing a ton of makeup, and she had her hair done, and she was just, like, over the top. And so it's like, oh, like, I thought that was kind of weird, because typically
natural beauty and
very
modest
clean.
Is hottest and all that.
I was like, 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, I guess that checks out.
43.
So after that, like, some weird stuff starts happening. Vesper starts to kind of lose it.
She starts
a little bit.
Yeah, the mirror scene, really, page 55. Sorry, I remembered it. I just remembered that page so specifically, and I was like, that one really got me. And it was when things started to get a little bit more weird. The weekend was progressing, and she needed to go get some air.
Page 55.
And the mirror is not doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
And she's like, hold on. And I've felt not like that exact before, but when you're just trying to like find a safe space for a minute and breathe, and then more weird things start happening, I wouldn't have been able to play it cool like she did.
I mean, she was losing it.
But like, more gracefully than I could have.
Well, she also grew up there, so you also kind of have to take that into consideration. She's dealt with this her whole life. True. So it's not necessarily something new for her. So she goes down to get water, and like her glass disappears at some point. Yeah. She comes back up to her room in the middle of the night, and her window's open, and she's like, I know for a fact, like, I cannot open this window.
And like, it's just sitting there open.
Like, and it's just sitting there open.
Spooky.
Yeah. So there's like these weird instances, and then you kind of get moments of her dad, and he only comes to visit. She has no photos of him. She has no idea who he is, and he's definitely not around.
I was so curious about that so many times. Like, Yeah. And how, like, kind he is.
Very, very kind.
So why be so distant if you really do care?
Yeah.
Like,
and him and the mom don't really get along. So in my brain, naive brain at this point. That's why he's not around, is because him and the mom don't get along. That's what I thought. Maybe
she's a celebrity. He didn't want that life.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he ended up running away, kind of like Vesper did, like found somebody else. And I think at some point she kind of questions that as well. If he ended up having a different family.
And wondering what kind of daddy is to them kind of thing. I remember a little bit. Don't remember page that time. But about her talking about it.
Page 164. No. Yeah. So there is a moment right before the wedding that Brody ends up showing up at the house. And here I go again, thinking they're gonna fall in love. They don't.
Spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. He's getting married. He does get married. But he does kiss her.
Yep.
And I'm like, what's happening? It's not happening.
It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, just kidding. So close. But we do find out that before she ran away, they were in love. And essentially she asked him to leave with her.
Oh.
And it doesn't happen.
And then I suddenly was on Team Hate Rosie. Like, I just whipped
her fault.
So bad. Yeah, like, you bitch.
You innocent, pure
in a free country, chose, not a free country where she lives. But yeah, I was mad at the whole situation because I wanted it to work out differently and better for everybody. Yeah. If it turns out, he's supposed to be with Vesper, then I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
So that was actually sad.
And he does still have feelings for her, but he does want to marry Rosie, and that's essentially what it comes to.
And he was so into the faith too. He also had a bathtub of the Kool-Aid,
like way, and that's why she ended up not leaving. It's because she was like,
you're part of the MLM, and I don't want to be a part of it. So sorry.
Sorry, I can't actually get 3 independent product dealers.
Turns out I don't want to be a girl boss like you do, Brody.
I don't need my... Never mind. I'm gonna stop. Oh, sorry.
So then Vesper knows that, like, the wedding is going to happen, and she's going to have to feel all these feelings, and to know that they still both really care about each other, and how she's still going to be, like, the bigger person and go to his wedding. And
there's a moment in the flashback where...
I could not.
He says, you really don't believe in the Lord, because he's like, you're really going to leave? Like, you really don't believe in this? Because it's, like, unfathomable to him.
How could you not?
And she says, if you honestly think that I do, then you don't know me at all. Or something along those lines. And
she's, like, the logical one of the family and kind of cold like her mother. Everybody tried to say she was kind of more like her mom than she wanted to.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, oh, that was so good. I was like, yeah. Like, as your partner, you should know that at this point. Mm-hmm. Because they've been together for so long. She's like, are you for real? Like, no. And you should know that. And so then she just ends up leaving. And so we kind of get that backstory there.
Wah, wah.
I mean, did she do the right thing by leaving? Yes. Should she have stayed gone? Absolutely.
Also, yes.
But then he does go through with the wedding. And there's the wedding day. She's like...
How everyone's eerily weird.
Happy.
And, like, everyone has had that kind of family where there's ups and downs and then there's event fake.
Oh.
Event fake is a whole thing. Especially if you're not wanting to be in on that and you're like, no, you were like a royal bitch like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And now, like, everyone's here, so we're all happy family time. Like... No. And the decorations, how intense they were. And then, just... Whew.
It's over the top, for sure. We forgot to mention, there is the aunt and the uncle. There's Aunt Grace and... whatever the uncle's name is.
Yeah, sorry. Uncle.
Very obviously really important. But they are, like, genuinely very kind to Vesper and always have been. And these are Rosemary's parents. So she at least has that going for her. She trusts them. They're very kind to her. They're genuinely really happy to see her. And Grace is essentially the mom that she didn't have and she always wanted.
And she, like, the character talks about that a lot in the book.
On how close she is with them. So Just keep
Good job
that in
remembering
mind.
that, because I had, it completely went over my head.
But they get married, and they do it in the church.
And it's
which is underground.
Yeah, very weird Satan wedding, which, I mean,
With
that's
a goat.
one I haven't attended. Man. Catholic, Baptist, regular, but not a satanic one.
Can you imagine?
We'll add that to our bucket list.
Me in that environment. Okay. All right, there's a goat. No longer go. Okay.
Stop standing up.
I gotta take a call.
Yeah. I need to make a call.
But the wedding
and
does go through.
Vesper's starting to be like, Especially because everything had been so weird with her dad.
Yep. And she kind of, it's like a weird, she has a moment with her mom before the wedding where, like, before she was never allowed in her mom's room growing up. And so there was that kind of moment where then her mom was, like, kind of speaking semi-nicely to her. So she's, like, there's almost, like, a change happening.
She was talking to her as a peer. Sorry to interrupt, but talking to her instead of, like, a peer instead of mom down to daughter.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is, like, I've had that instance before when I was a little bit younger and my mom was starting to just talk to me like the young woman that I am. Mm-hmm. And I was still stuck in child mode. So I'm like, why are you, what? And so it was weird. And I imagined the weird day she was already having. And then her ex is marrying someone else.
Yeah.
And then she's, just a lot. Poor Vesper. Sorry, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, and then and this was weird. Oh yeah, don't forget that.
Are you rethinking your 3 stars? No, I'm just kidding.
Perhaps 3.8. Just kidding. Okay.
So the wedding goes through, and then they're at the after party, and then a man walks in, and everybody is,
Bum, bum, bum.
oh my gosh.
I'm imagining dry ice smoke everywhere. Like, when you're watching the Eras tour. Are you ready for it?
Yeah. He walks in, he's got the glam on.
Karen the snake.
But everybody is like, oh my gosh,
it's him.
He's here. Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, huh? And then she's like, oh, Dad?
What's up, Dad?
You're here? Hey.
Everybody else said, oh, my Lord, and hello. And she's like, huh? Wait.
Yeah.
That's just
Who
Dad.
Are you? And so she then figures out, essentially, her dad is Lucifer. Because of course.
Why not? She's already having a weird enough day.
And
then she sits at dinner with her parents together.
Like, in hindsight, duh. Like, duh, Kylee. Come on.
Of course.
Like, but I'm leading up to it, I was like, ooh, I have no idea.
You were still holding out hope for that love story a little bit.
Yeah.
You didn't have time to consider
ran
who
off.
Lucifer may be.
He found the love of his life and had other children. And then Vesper was going to, like, go and live with them. Like, that's definitely what I thought was going to happen. And then that wasn't, obviously.
Wrong.
He's Satan. So, Lucifer.
So, of course, he's going to be selfish.
Yeah. But he has the charisma. So that's one thing about him is he's very charismatic and like the way he talks, and he's in a suit and
I'd probably fall for it. I'd just gullible as shit over here sometimes. It'd be like, yeah, okay, everything's fine. Wait a second.
You're cute.
Wait a second.
Nah, I think the whole Satan thing would probably
be a hard no for you.
I'm good. Yep, cool, pal. You do you. I gotta go. So when she finds that out, she runs outside. There's, like, a whole moment of her crying and, like, what? Like, her whole world is essentially flipped upside down. Because at this point, now she's, like, princess, sort of, kind of type thing.
What a weird way to be like, so what's my royal title here?
Yeah, and then she starts to find out, like, why everybody liked her. Wasn't because of who she was.
It's because of who she was the child of.
Yeah, which
like, they were trying to better their position by being on her good side. Because they're like, oh, she's going to be in charge, so.
Yeah, or even just, like Brody to feel worthy enough to be with Vesper and things like that. Like, the whole shift on her whole life, on, like, why people liked her and wanted to be around her. Wasn't about
such a big
her.
deal that she left.
Why they were welcoming her back had nothing to do with actually her. It had to do with who she was and what she was expected to do.
Who, what, why, where, when.
So she takes off, and they let her. She goes. She gets her job back, and then her manager, George, and her...
Wonderful George.
Good old Georgie. They kind of start hanging out, getting together, hooking up. that kind of thing.
He's in a band.
He's got his mixtapes.
Yeah.
They ended up kind of dating in a way, and she felt like she could trust him, and so she just told her whole life story.
I believe somewhere it talked about like her word vomiting everything to him, and I'm like, oh no, don't do that. I've done that before. It's a mistake.
That's called oversharing.
We only do that to each other.
And then it ends up coming back to bite her in the ass, essentially.
Because George is a POS.
And has a fat mouth.
Chatty Cathy.
And he tells Carrie, who is a coworker, who used
Carrie
to be
was
her
a
friend.
mean girlfriend. Carrie was like a friend that's not really your friend kind of thing.
Yeah. But like friend under certain circumstances.
When it was convenient for her.
Yeah, and so Carrie liked George before Vesper did know this. Then Vesper and George end up kind of getting together. And then George tells Carrie everything about Vesper's life. Which she is pretty sensitive to, because, I mean, that's not necessarily something you drop on somebody. Like,
Wouldn't be like shouting it from the rooftops.
I grew up in a satanic cult. How about you? How was your Tuesday? You know,
I mean, how many times did we hang out with other people before anybody would drop that I used to be homeschooled? We would just let them, like, think I was weird. Just let that go for a little while.
Just let it. The jokes kind of slip out.
Yeah, it's true. Or my sayings that I sound too much older than I am and be like, oh, nobody your age actually says that. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine. I don't want to drop that. How do you go about being like, yeah, so I'm the daughter of Satan?
I think I would take that to my grave. I don't
really?
think... Why? Why do I need to tell a therapist? Maybe, but then they're going to put you on meds because they're going to think you're crazy.
Netflix special.
Called what? What's the Netflix special going to be? Help, my girlfriend is the daughter of Satan? Like, huh?
I'll think about it. I'll get back to you.
Like, you imagine that documentary?
And those people, like, harassing you forever about that. Because she already got hounded about how she looks just like her mom all the time. And she was like...
She hated
anywhere without being compared and somebody saying it.
Yeah.
So then her and Carrie ain't friends no more now that this is getting out.
Yeah. And they're in the bathroom, and Carrie is essentially like telling her she knows, essentially, but in a very derogatory, you're weird type way. And Vesper is like
getting mad. And
getting really mad.
She can feel the heat coming off of her. And in one part, it talks about how, like, she went to touch the sink hoping it would be, like, cool, but it was hot.
Yeah.
And she's like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And then water comes trickling out. And essentially, Carrie falls and hits her head.
But she should have kept her mouth shut because she loses all of her teeth. Smacking her own
that's
teeth.
what it was.
I loved this part. Watching this mean girl just get, like... And then it talks about how there was pearls all over the place, but it wasn't pearls. It was teeth. All of her teeth got smacked out, and then she was bleeding and screaming, so everyone thought that Vesper attacked her in the bathroom. So first, everybody's talking smack all morning before you get into the shift that you're a crazy Satan devil lady. And then the one girl comes out of the bathroom with no teeth. I would quit that
happened.
day. I would be like, nope, this place is too crazy for me.
Like as an employee or as Vesper?
If I was like her coworker and I saw that, I'd be like, I'm done. Like, I don't think
Vesper would have a job after it.
True.
Considering she was fired for hot cheese. Yeah.
We thought that was an assault.
And so she's like, she kind of has a moment of like, did I do that? Was that me who did the water and made her fall and yada, yada, yada. So there's like a supernatural element that's starting to happen of like, is there something to me here? Because then she starts thinking about the hot cheese and, like, maybe she did...
burn him, like...
intentionally.
Does she have powers that she's unaware of?
Yeah.
So then this book goes a little bit more fantasy, and you're like, wait, what? Buckle up, it's about to get so much better.
So I was trying to explain it to somebody, and I said fantasy, and then I was like, I don't know if that's appropriate, because, like, if somebody... genuinely does believe.
You didn't want to be like diminishing it or trying to say that, you know, it's wrong or anything or like super fake. No, all of you, you do you. We respect what you're doing.
It is
for the
fiction.
sake of this book. This book might be a fantasy book talking about real things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I was like, I don't even know if I would say it's fantasy because, like, if so, I don't know. Yeah, I could be wrong.
For sure, just a fiction story.
Yes, yeah. So then does she get fired? I think she gets fired.
I was reading so fast through these sections that some of it's kind of blurred because I'm listening.
The end?
I'm like, come on, just gotta get to the good. Gotta get to the good bits.
But she leaves. She goes to a dive bar.
Tries to hide out there and kind of start over.
Sweet
Child of Mine comes on, and she's just like, oh no. Because that song, it was like her dad's song. Mm-hmm. And so anytime she hears that, she's starting to figure out that, like, he might be coming around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she hears it, and she's like, oh, like, Christ, I can't escape this. Like,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Here we go. I'm going to go get some air. And then dumbass is like, I'm going to follow you.
Yeah. Well, the dad shows up at the bar.
Oh, yes.
And they end up, like, talking, and she's like, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah.
What do you want?
Yeah. And it's very kind of hostile, essentially. And then she goes to the bathroom. She comes back, and he's gone.
Which, after the time she had in the bathroom last time, wouldn't you, like, be avoiding bathrooms?
I mean, it wasn't her teeth.
That's true. True.
For her.
Fair enough.
She's just got to go. If you saw her walking in and you knew, I probably wouldn't go in.
Take pause.
But, you know, I'm also not harassing her at the same time. So she comes back from the bathroom. He's gone. And she ends up following him outside looking for him. And
I remember that part. Like, Dad, where are you?
Yeah. And good old Georgie. Or he's like in an alley. A dark figure in an alley, I think is how it's described. And she goes, and it's George, actually. And then the dad shows up, and it's all, like, very dark and
messy. And
the dad is like, I'm just showing you who you are and what you're capable of, and yada, yada, yada. He's like, what should we do to him for what he did to you? Essentially embarrassing her, and George starts talking about her in a very derogatory way on, like, it was just sex, she's a good lay, blah, blah, blah.
Would have me fuming.
And she does.
So mad.
And the dad also, he's like, are you going to let him
get
talk
away
to you
with that?
Like that. Yeah, which I'm like.
Very my dad. That's something he would do. He'd be like, so, kneecaps?
What are we doing here? Which is essentially what her
rearrange
dad,
his face?
her dad kind of does the same thing. Like, what should we do to him?
Did you like the teeth thing? I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Show me do that again.
A little bag of tricks I got here. And she says his hands. Like, in her head, though, she says his hands, then he can't play music because he's a musician.
Ooh, perfect.
Which is just, like, cutthroat. And he essentially, like, mangles his hands. Like daughter. Yeah, he, like, or breaks she does, I guess, technically.
She hurts him something, yeah. The man gets his hands messed up.
Big time. And I think it's her because he says, now you see who you are or what you're capable of, something along those lines. And then they have, like, this moment of, like, you and I are the same. And she kind of accepts that. She tells him that she loves him, and he says, I love you too.
Which we're looking at this as what a sweet moment, not realizing that he's totally using her.
He's using her 100%.
And you as the reader will not know that at this moment. You're going to be like, oh, wow, they really, like, and she's understanding that, you know, maybe she can find a way to do good and bad with this power that's inside of her. That's what you think is going to happen.
I did not.
Oh,
I was like,
that's
what
I
are
shouldn't
we...
speak for her, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, maybe there's, like, she's going to come around about it, but she's going to rule this in her own way.
No, she's drinking the Kool-Aid at this point. This is where my mind's going of like, oh, no, this is going to turn into a whole thing.
Got her.
Yeah, they got her, essentially, and they're using emotional manipulation, essentially, to get her to come back.
Ah, classic.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, I don't trust you. But she does go back with him. And then there's some sort of celebration that's happening. She doesn't really know what it is. And this is where, like, even more of the gaudy decorations comes out. Like, she goes downstairs and there's,
like, picturing, like, red
curtains.
Drapes.
Yeah.
Look at us, we both are like...
Velvet, red drapes.
Yes.
Her Aunt Grace drugs her.
Devastating.
Horrible. And I think it's tea or something like that.
Yeah, let's make some tea, honey.
Yeah,
and their
don't
little
drink
typical...
the tea. Yeah.
Anytime anyone offers you tea, you be like, you eye that.
Unless it's me, because I got ginger turmeric.
She's innocent.
I got the lemon leaf. Is your tummy upset? I got some mint. What do you need?
Raspberry.
I have raspberry leaf.
Excellent. Okay, we're good then.
You mix it with lemonade. It makes it better.
I really like the... Okay, never mind. We're going to do a different tea episode. Back to the book.
Moving on.
So she wakes up and something's not right. She doesn't feel right.
She doesn't feel right. And she knows that Grace drugged her. She knows that she was drugged at this point. And she comes downstairs, and everyone's like, oh, Vesper, hi, aren't you so excited?
Even more than usual, too.
It's like something is clearly happening that Vesper is not aware of. And there's like people outside the house. Remember that? Mm-hmm. I think they're like saying something, some sort of prayer, essentially.
Yeah, they were praying, chanting something.
Some weird... This is when the movie here starts turning, and you're like,
it's like that scene in Nemo.
Ooh, ooh, ha, ha, hee, hee, ho, ho.
Please, he's just a boy.
He's just a girl.
Can't there be another way? Aunt Grace. Nope.
Nope, sorry. But they sit down at dinner, and they're like, eat up.
But she is dressed up, like, to the...
Yeah.
They've got her
She's
all
got,
in
like,
this
a corset
gown. And she keeps being like, it's so tight on my side, I can't breathe. And anyone that's worn a corset dress knows that they can be unforgiving. So imagine waking up feeling like WTF, and then she drugged me, and now all this weird shit, my already weird family.
Mm-hmm. Everybody is so excited. Like, the energy in this house to her is very off, obviously. She was drugged. But then also, like, the excitement. Like, there's something really big that's happening, and everybody's really excited.
Building up to it.
And they have this, like, last dinner, essentially, where it's just a buffet
it's
of
a feast.
everything.
And anytime a book has, like, excited aunts and someone comes home and there's a feast, red flag.
And a satanic cult. Red flag
number 2. True. Yeah, she was their May Queen.
Yeah, literally. That's
I didn't
100%
want to do this
the
the whole
vibe.
time, but it just, as reading this, I had a hard time separate. I'm like, they're two separate stories. They're two separate stories.
Yeah. No, I
just
totally
love
get what you're saying.
similarities.
Yeah. She's got her flower gown on, okay?
Yeah, here we go.
And then the dad comes and sits, and this is the dinner where she's having dinner with both her parents, and the dad is, like, eating something that's raw.
And she can't quite see it because it's, red lighting and candles and everything is red, so she can't see, like, what's really going on. And then...
Yeah. And then the mom is, I think, really now, like, you can tell she's not happy. Like, she is the one person that is not happy about what's happening.
Not at all.
And she did, like, Vesper doesn't know why. She clearly is not being told anything at all. But then they go
back to the church. I remember her thinking, like, why? Like,
yeah, everybody's
over.
going back to the church, and they describe it as, like, a very closed kind of staircase, and she's having a hard time walking down.
Because she doesn't feel good. I still can't breathe in my side. I can't breathe.
Yeah, my side hurts. And then she discovers that she's bleeding, actually. Her side is bleeding.
Finally sees that.
They start doing this ceremony. Well, her dad does, Lucifer, starts doing this ceremony, and in it, he says something about eating the rib of his child.
And then she has this moment of,
cut the show. What? I was like, oh, I don't like that.
And me being disgusting, I'm like, whoa, it's getting good now.
Nasty.
I was thinking that he ate her liver or like something like that.
Yeah.
And I also went super dark at the beginning when she's drugged and he's eating something. I'm like, how are they keeping her alive if he's eating her heart? And I'm like, nope, that can't be. Like, quick, let me go back to Genesis and check what they could be doing. Like,
no, I was like, no. And then you start thinking back of like, she sat there and watched him
do it.
Foul. No. I didn't like it. I didn't like that. Grossed me out. To be expected. I mean,
as it should.
Not really a normal Sunday dinner.
No.
But so then she's like, what the heck is happening? Like, what are we doing? Da 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 da. And essentially, as he's going on with the ceremony, he's like, we're opening the portal to hell, and we're gonna open it up, and then it's gonna like take over the world, and it's gonna be the new world, and yeah,
we will rule it.
Just a regular suicide cult.
Another doomsday, end of the world. Yeah, you've reached your final levels. Now you're gonna live in paradise under me forever. Blah.
Yeah, but it's like, but it's like literally a portal in the floor that's supposed to open.
Any Supernatural fans that watch the show Supernatural, when the demons or anything or opening anything like that. That's what I was picturing. I was like, come, somebody call Sam and Dean.
They're about to bust in any moment here. But to do that, he has to kill her.
And Vesper's going, haven't I not been through enough?
You just took my rib. Now you're going to just...
You make me watch my man marry my cousin?
Okay, well, bigger problems here.
Yeah, true. Back to life and death.
I mean, at this point, I'm kind of over this whole love story thing. I've decided that's not happening. Would you not be side-eyeing
Aunt Grace, too? Like, I trust you. Like,
that was the biggest betrayal for me. It's like, I loved Aunt Grace.
She had been buttering her up.
And then everybody's like, yeah, like it's a UFC fight. Like, get her, like, it's ridiculous. But so he has this sacrifice of her, essentially. And then she wakes up.
A sacrifice! I don't want to be a sacrifice.
And then she wakes up, and she's like, who? What happened?
Oh, great heavens.
There's a moment where she discovers her power, I guess you could say, and she's like, well, I'm just as much a part of this as you are, and I'm your daughter, and I can do these things. And so she tries to start to close the portal. Things start dragging down, people start dragging down, and there's a moment with her mom where she's like, she says something like, don't let him do this, or something like that, or she gives her something to, like, kill him. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Because I don't remember if this is the necklace part.
No. It's like she's holding something and she gives it to her, I think.
I think you're right, too.
And so...
That'll be a fun thing for our readers to go find out for themselves. Then come back and tell us.
Yeah, my fish brain ain't quite getting it. So then you kind of start to realize that her mom never wanted this for her. And her mom wants her to fight back and yada, yada, yada. And so this is where you piece together... That's why her mom has been cold to her this entire time, because she doesn't want this life for her. And
she wanted her to go escape, and she really cared about her and her daughter's freedom, and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you also kind of start to learn that Constance never had a choice in this whole thing. She was chosen by him.
And, like, her glitz and glam lifestyle isn't what everybody thought it was this whole time, and it's like, wow.
She's a victim, essentially,
yes,
of this whole thing, and she doesn't want that for Vesper.
Yes.
In conclusion. So then Vesper ends up stabbing him, hurting him somehow, and essentially it's like a black hole, and the whole church is going down, and it lights on fire, and she closes the portal.
There's a little razzle-dazzle in there.
This all happened so quickly.
In like a few pages. You have a whole like story build up, a whole book, and then the end.
Literally.
Huh?
The end of this is so quick, and like, not kidding, like this whole sacrifice ceremony, whatever you want to call it, happens within like a chapter. Like, it's so quick.
So true.
They all go in this black hole, essentially. Everybody's falling down. Sayonara. And then he ends up going down, and she's all girl boss. And then the church lights on fire, and she leaves. And it's like, oh, okay.
All right.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough.
Took care of that.
Yeah. She goes back later, and they had set up like a tour type thing, and then they had done a documentary about the place.
Because it's all like haunted or whatever.
And it's like,
look at this spooky place that this satanic group cult lived in.
And they all disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they think, is they all disappeared. And Vesper's cousin that had gotten out before she did is like running the documentary. She's a part of it.
The tell-all thing.
Yeah. But so they have this special event on the anniversary, and she goes, she gets the tickets, she's like going in the house, and nobody knows that she exists. Being
so casual. Just like, oh, last time I was here, I closed a portal to hell. Love what you done with the place.
Great.
Girl, this is nice.
And people know that she exists, but they don't know that that's her. Like, they think that she ended up going too, and she disappeared, yada, yada,
Can you imagine getting a do-over like that? Like, everybody thinks you're dead. Or gone. And you just get to do whatever you want.
That'd be so weird. I don't know what I'd do.
I would definitely not have a job. That's for sure.
But, like, how are you going to live?
Don't know.
Fair enough.
But it's going to be fun.
You're like, I'll figure it out. I don't know if I'd like that.
It would be weird.
Yeah. Like, I would never... I'm just not supposed to talk to anybody that I've ever known.
Well, it would give you so much freedom to, like, have whatever identity you want. Because everybody thinks
So
you're
you're
dead.
not going to hit me up if I think that you're dead?
Oh, of course I would. I'd be at your house. I'd literally be like, dude, everybody thinks I'm dead. I get to start over. What do I want to be now? Who do I want to be? I don't have to be the homeschool kid that, like, acts normal now. I could be whoever I want. Like, it'd be so fun.
I don't have to act like an alien in a human body
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. You know how exhausting this has been? Like, okay, let me just unzip here. Like... It'd be so fun.
While we're at it.
Yeah.
But then,
so this
like...
book, really, like, takes you on a mind fuck. You're just like, oh my God.
What
Every
would
time
I
you think
do?
You have it figured out. And then here she is back at this house. And this place used to have so much energy and power. And now it's just a tourist trap.
It's like dead.
Where you pay money to go do stuff.
And it's like a special event. There's special tickets. And you pay extra to go inside the house. And she's like,
There's velvet ropes everywhere. So
she
you
can't
can't do
go
anything.
upstairs. But she does it anyway. But she essentially goes back to say goodbye in a way. So there's some sort of memorial spot that she goes to, and she puts some stuff down, her necklace, I think, and then the one photo of her dad's, like, arm, essentially, around her. And then there's, like, an uncertainty. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's an uncertainty of, is this actually over? Like, something happens. There's a sound.
Let's check our notes here.
Memory of Constance Wright and the members of the Hellgate, wherever they may be, rest in peace. She adds her contributions. She hears her mother's voice. I swear I hear her. Vesper, go now and don't look back.
There it is.
And then there's the smell. The smell of sulfur.
That's what it is.
The smell of Lucifer, essentially. So she gets up and she says, sayonara, packs up.
I'm gone.
And nobody ever hears from her again.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. It was good. I gave it 5 stars just because of the... I didn't know really what was happening. And I did like that. In hindsight...
Lots of thrill in the thriller.
Yeah. In hindsight, there's a lot of things that are kind of obvious. But at the time I was reading it, I didn't know.
And
maybe I was just naive.
And honestly, I'm kind of okay with those kind of books. It's okay to just enjoy a good book. It doesn't have to be complicated. Nobody else has to be like, oh, I couldn't read that. It was too difficult. You're like, well, I did. So it was really nice. I guess, I'll give it a 4 out of 5, because you're right.
Sure.
I was being very harsh, as if I've ever written a damn book that anybody would want to read. So yeah, we'll give it a 4 out of 5. I'm sorry, everybody.
I'm big on books don't have to be literary masterpieces. They can just be for reading and be fun. And that's okay. I don't need to be reading 12 steps to improve yourself, yada, yada, yada. I can read Black Sheep and enjoy myself and have a good time.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I'm big on that.
Yes, it is time. So now when we are going to take 2 very different imaginations and try to put faces to these characters. And if you guys agree or disagree, like, drop it in the comments, so that I think this could get really fun.
And it's also kind of like, if you were to make this a movie, who would you cast? Who would you cast as these characters? And in all honesty, as you're reading, you have somebody in mind. So for me, it doesn't matter what color hair you say that they have. I've already decided
I've assigned an actor. Yeah, and I'm like, that's who you are.
It doesn't matter anymore what you say. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. I'm starting with Rosie. I had Amanda Seyfried.
Fair.
Blonde, doughy-eyed.
Yeah.
Everybody talking about how beautiful. I think she's very beautiful. So that's who I had picked for Rosie. Constance, I had to emphasize this, a younger Jessica Lange.
Oh, I had Jessica Lange for Constance. I watch way too much American Horror Story.
Yes! She's so good at being a villain. She just nails it. And Grace, like, she has so much. I just want to be her.
Yeah.
She's so
And
cool.
I just imagine her, like, sitting at the table. She's got, like, her cigarette.
Smoking a cigarette,
but,
yes!
like, it's got, like, the piece like a
roach
Cruella
clip.
DeVille thing.
Yep.
And she's just like, oh, so you're home. She's got like a glass of wine. Like,
In her stilettos.
100% Jessica Lange.
Perfect.
Yeah.
For Vesper, I have Emma Norton. She's a cosplayer, model.
Okay.
I follow her Instagram. She does incredible, like, different makeup looks. And she can really transform herself. You'll be like, I didn't even know that was you. Like,
That's cool.
and she's kind of short, petite, but a very powerful little woman. I don't know how else to describe it, Emma Norton. But like, she's so cool. And so that's who I have for her. And for Lucifer, it was George Clooney, because, like, classic. Everybody loves that
Clooney
silver
role.
fox. Yeah.
Did you have anybody for Brody?
No, to be honest, because I really just couldn't care less about this character in this book. I was just like, what the fuck?
I'm like
Brody?
holding out hope. You're
Yeah,
like,
and I'm just like,
moving
so I
on.
hope they sacrifice him, honestly.
Did you have anybody for Aunt Grace?
Aunt Grace, I don't remember the actress's name, so I'll just hopefully have to come back another time and try to think of that one, because it's facing me now, and I'm like, I couldn't possibly think of anyone that could play her.
We'll be in episode 7, 40
And I'll
minutes
be like,
in.
oh yeah, so Aunt Grace.
I got it. I've been thinking about it.
Like maybe Melissa McCarthy, if she was like a less funny Melissa McCarthy.
I
Nurturing, sweet.
love Melissa McCarthy. I will watch anything that she's in. I think she is phenomenal.
I would listen to her read an instruction manual for an appliance,
Same.
and I would still watch it. Like, you're so funny, girl.
So mine, for Vesper, I had Lily Reinhart from Riverdale.
Yes.
I feel like
good
she just do
choice.
so good.
Yes.
So, in the book, Vesper and Constance both have black hair. In my mind, they do not. They are blonde. So,
Okay.
which even Rosie, she's blonde too, which I think she is described as lighter hair.
Yes.
But Vesper was Lily Reinhart, Constance, Jessica Lange, I agree. Rosie was Anna Sophia Robb from Birds of Terabithia.
Very good
Also
choice.
in a bunch of other things, but very petite. She's got like a cute face, I'd like her. Brody was Adam Brody. I don't know what he's from. He's got like the brown curly hair.
Good choice.
You know what I'm
though.
talking about?
That's really good.
Aunt Grace, as much as I ended up despising her, picked,
we don't forgive you for what you did.
Yeah, I picked Drew Barrymore.
Oh,
Because that was so good. Like, and I think she could pull it off, that switch.
So true. 100%.
And then Lucifer, I had Jude Law, but a very specific
Much hotter choice.
Jude Law in like the vest with the tie. I think it's
all
like
prim and proper with
yeah,
his
like
monocle.
2010 type vibe. Jude Law for sure. The charisma
I like
vibe.
that.
He walks in the room with his Taylor
Everybody
Swift
has
song
attention.
coming.
So true.
Yes, so that was my fan cast.
I love that. I just love that we both agreed on one of the characters, that we both picked the same actress. Like, that's so cool.
Because she's so good.
Yep.
She's so cool.
Yes.
I want to be her.
Someday.
But maybe not in American Horror Story. Because she's
Yeah.
got some horrific
Depends on what
things.
character you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. Well, I think that's it.
We
for
did another episode.
Episode 2.
Yay! Thank you
Yay.
guys for watching along, laughing along, cringing along, whatever it may be.
Saying, what are they even saying? What are you talking about?
I'm so proud of us for getting through another episode, though, and like doing this, because I have so much fun doing this with you. Like, this is...
We stayed on track.
We actually did really well.
There was no out of the boat action.
And I think I only interrupted you like 75 times. So that's pretty
It doesn't
good. We're
bother
making
me.
progress. Thank God.
I think that's a mutual
It's
thing
like we both
do.
get excited, so we're like, oh no, let her have it for a second. Like, yep.
Let me think. Anyway, thank you guys.
Let us know what you thought. If you read this book, tell us what you thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't yet, please give it a try. If you're an author and you want us to read your book and talk about it, send it to Kylee, because she's the one that keeps everything in order. Don't send it to me. I'll lose it, or my dog's going to chew it up, something. So, yeah, we'll
you can
figure it
just
out.
message us on Instagram and
There you go.
we'll order it.
I'm getting this whole hosting or the leading thing down here. We're going to get this figured out.
But like, subscribe, comment,
Follow,
share.
Watch these. Have your friends watch them. We really want people to watch and enjoy these episodes, because we think we're kind of funny. I like to think we're kind of funny. Let us know if we're not.
Don't let us know. Please don't. I am a sensitive person.
DM me.
You suck. No,
yeah.
Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah, please don't.
I run the Instagram page, so please don't be sending any nasty messages.
Sure, she'll send them to me, and then I'll show up at your house, and then it'll get awkward.
It's
be like,
just gonna
so,
turn
I
into
heard,
a
why
whole
don't you say
thing.
that with your chest since you said through your keyboard how much I sucked, huh?
Anywho, we're gonna wrap that up.
We're gonna call this a day. It's getting too weird.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.